Boundaries help you define your direction. Like they help you actually move in a direction that you want to go. So many people don't have boundaries, don't know what boundaries are, and don't know how to actually keep boundaries. We'll talk through a couple of those today, but I want you to understand that boundaries can be used to keep you on the path that you want to go down. Think of it like this for a moment. Like if you have a direction that you're going and you know this is the direction I want to go, you're not going to let someone veer you off the path. So we're driving one day and the GPS is saying, hey, get off on this exit. And it's this typical direction where the traffic gets backed up in this one section of highway. And what the GPS does is like, hey, get off on this exit. We'll take you down a little bit. You'll do like this U-turn and you'll get back on the exit later. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. So like I get off the exit and we're driving down and all of a sudden we're getting to light and we start to realize, I think everybody's using the same GPS because this line here is like longer than like the highway. And all these people are trying to make this U-turn, trying to go back around to be able to get on the highway farther down. And we're just like, this is a mess. And I'm sitting there and I'm getting like frustrated because I'm like, this is ridiculous. Because it pulled me off the main road, it pulled me in this direction, telling me that it was going to be an easier route, telling me that it was going to be faster. So naturally I'm like, yeah, let's go. I just veer off the highway and go down this way, and I realize that the line is exceptionally long. The problem is I'm already stuck in the line. There's not another way to get around the line, and we're stuck. So it added like 30 minutes to our drive time because I went off the highway to be able to take this shortcut. Now, a lot of times when you're in a toxic relationship, the narcissist is going to be the GPS that's trying to sell you a shortcut that's not actually a shortcut. He's trying to sell you a hack that's like not actually the hack. Like it's actually going to hurt you. He's trying to give you a false reality, trying to paint a picture of this reality that he can build with you that's not actually real. And so inside this illustration, like when you have boundaries that say, hey, I appreciate that you want to take me that direction, but that's not the direction I want to go. And he's like, well, I'm going to take you that way and we're actually going to get around to it. No, that's not actually the way that I want to go. That's when you start to develop boundaries that are helping you in your direction and how you're actually moving forward in the healing process, how you're actually moving forward in knowing who you are. So many people ask, they're like, why do I keep getting attracted to a toxic person? And nobody likes the answer that I give, but typically it boils down to this. You don't know who you are. You're like, yes, I do. I know who I am. Okay, well, I'd have you consider if you know who you are, and you have boundaries based on who you are and based on the direction that you're going, then you wouldn't have fallen in this toxic relationship. You're like, well, I knew who I was and he made me forget who I was. Okay, I knew the direction I was going. The GPS didn't make me forget who I was. I just lost the path because I decided I wasn't going to keep the boundary of going the direction I wanted to go. Like I gave up the direction I wanted to go for another direction. When you're in a toxic relationship, you give up the trajectory you're going in your life for someone else. Yes, you get sold on it. Yes, you get this reality of like, well, it's going to be a perfect life. It's going to be this great relationship. It's going to be great marriage. We're going to have these kids. We're going to have this house. It's going to be fantastic. Yes, you get all that stuff sold to you. But I need you to understand, as you get this stuff sold to you, you end up sacrificing yourself because you end up pulling off the highway. You pull off the path of the direction that you know you need to go into another place that's selling you into a fantasy, selling you into a shortcut that doesn't exist. And so many times people will be like, I'm just a narcissist magnet. And be like, no, you actually don't know who you are. Because if you did, you wouldn't let someone pull you off the path of the direction you know you're called to be. Do you know how many people I talk to on a day-to-day basis? One of the questions I ask is, what has been the cost in the past years that you've been with this toxic person on your purpose and on your calling? And they're like, I don't have a purpose. I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that looks like. I used to, but I don't anymore. People lose purpose when they break their boundaries. You lose purpose and direction when your boundaries get broken and you get pulled off the road. When you get sold into believing that this exit is going to save you time and money, it's going to give you the dream that you always wanted, but it's not the direction that you actually want to go. And you sacrifice the direction you want to go for a quicker path that ends up being an abusive path. Boundaries end up being guardrails. Most of the time, people think of boundaries as being these barriers or being these walls. They think of this being like a wall that separates them from the toxic person and doesn't let them actually do what they want to do. And instead is limiting them. And they're just like, I don't want to have all these rules and regulations in my life because then I can't actually do what I want to do. I just don't want to worry about these boundaries. I just want to be nice to everybody. I want everybody to get along. Wake up. We're talking about toxicity and you're living in fantasy. And so you need to understand that boundaries are actually guardrails. They're actually these protective barriers on either side of the path that you're going. And at one period of time, you actually took one of those boundaries down. Someone came over and jumped over your boundary and you didn't say anything about it. Someone came over and pushed it down, started knocking down that boundary, and you're like, oh, that's okay. He loves me. It's okay if he's a little abusive. He loves me. It's okay if he's a little abusive. Like he's just having a bad day. Like it's okay if you start to tell yourself that it's okay that he's removing your boundary. And then he gets in your life and he veers you off the road and you're like, how did this ever happen? It's because you let him break down your boundaries. Are you getting this? Are you understanding what I'm talking about with boundaries being in a direction? You're like, I know who I am. I know this is how I want to live. Therefore, I'm going that way. And so if you're coming into my life, you're either going this way or you're not in my life. This is the hard part because people are like, well, that feels mean. That feels abusive. That feels wrong. So wrong that you're going to stay in a toxic relationship, not knowing who you are, with no purpose, no direction, not knowing your true calling, and feeling like a shell of yourself. That wrong? Boundaries need to happen in your life. If they don't happen, expect to be abused. Yes, I said that. It sounds really harsh. But for some of you, you need to actually hear it. And you're like, well, I don't know how to make boundaries. I get it. Then we need to work with you to help make boundaries. Think of a boundary like this. It's less of imposing limits and beliefs on another person, and it's more just saying, this is who I want to live as, and this is a boundary that I have for my life. What this does is it takes everything off of you, so you don't have to focus on, well, like, that's me placing a boundary on him. He's not respecting my rules. Your boundaries apply to you, not him. You're like, well, what about cheating? Like, I have a boundary that he can't cheat on me. No, that's not how it works. What? Well, then you mean he can cheat on me? No, that's not what I'm saying. The boundary isn't something that you impose on someone else. That's rules, that's laws, that's regulations. Like you live in a country where there are laws. Those are imposed upon you. You accept them by being in this country. And so when you're in a relationship, there's not this piece that you're putting laws and regulations and rules on another person. Instead, you have boundaries that actually mean something to you. Okay, so let's go back to the cheating illustration. You're like, well, he's not allowed to cheat. Okay, you don't control him and you're not his mom. But he's not allowed to because we're in a relationship. I get it. But again, you don't control him. You're not his mom. So let's dial it back and let's kind of look. What are you actually trying to say? You don't want to be in a relationship with someone who cheats. You see how that's different? Okay, let me break it down this way. When we're talking through this piece of cheating, you can say one piece, which is you're not allowed to do this. You're limiting him. You're saying you can't do this. You're taking away his choice. Put it that way, okay? Oh, I don't have a choice? Well, screw you. I'm going to go cheat anyways, okay? Taking away a choice. Versus if the boundary is you, and you're like, hey, my personal boundary is I'm not going to be in a relationship with someone who cheats on me. So what that means in practicality is like, well, you're limiting me. You're controlling me. No, not at all. You can go cheat as much as you want. Just know when you come home, I'm not going to be here. Because I'm not limiting you. I'm not telling you what you can or can't do. I'm saying I want a committed, loving, connected relationship. And if that means that like I have to leave because you're cheating on me, then I will leave. Because I know my worth and I know my value. I know who I am and I know the direction I'm going, which right now that's an integrity, truth, trust, and love. And if you're not going to be able to if you're not going to be able to go that direction and actually be that person, that's totally fine. Just know that that's not the person I want in my life. Do you see how this is different? This is different than you just putting a boundary on another person. This is you saying, hey, these boundaries are for me. These boundaries are from my direction. These boundaries are from my purpose and calling. So as a result, you either come into my life and you go the direction I want to go, or you don't. Like, well, that sounds kind of like ego of like, you have to go my direction or not. We're talking about your morals and principles. Not like you have to drive a blue car or else like I'm not going to be with you. Like, no. We're talking about how you're actually living. Like, you want to find someone that actually connects on the same level, like morally, emotionally, like spiritually, whatever it might be. You want to have someone that connects in that level. So start creating boundaries for you that are geared towards your direction. Not limiting, not rules, not regulations on other people, but saying, this is who I am and these are the boundaries I have in my life for me to go the direction that I want to go. If you're curious about how to do these more, this is what we work with people to help you establish healthy boundaries and direction moving forward. If you're a woman that's in a toxic relationship and you feel trapped, want to help take you to freedom, please reach out. Click on the link below. Go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough today.